Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, I want to welcome everybody here. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I know everybody's busy. I'm extremely busy. I'm sure you're busy. And I know that Paula has been extremely busy. So first off, I want to thank everybody for showing up. There's been a lot of work that's gone on since we met last. We've had 3 documents that have been formatted for easy AHJ adoption. They are now online on SEAC under Our Works. And so one of them is the checklist for electrical plan review of a new interactive battery storage system. We have the correction list to assist electrical plan review of a new interactive battery storage system. And then we have the inspections guideline to improve inspection procedures for a new interactive battery storage system. And so first off, I thank you, Paula, so much for all that you do, but especially for going back and working with other people, I was going to say committee members, but really everybody that's been participating, but especially you, Paula. I want to thank you and Alan and Charles and John for getting these in such a way that they're now on the website, and that's where we're going to see the most success with these documents. So again, that's what I want to say for welcoming everybody. Let's go through introductions.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks for that. Thank you. It all helps. All right, so introductions.
Yeah.
Well, how do you want to do this?
Do you want me to read everybody, or does everybody?
Yeah, can you? Maybe Paula, you can call them off, and then somebody could say hi.
Okay. You're there. All right, so I've got Alan Fields online. Chris
Howdy.
Fox.
Hello.
John Tacker.
Here.
Milton Naguera.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Pete Jackson.
Hello.
Hello.
Steve Jones.
Yep.
Jeff Shute.
Hello.
Duncan Clemenshaw. And myself, Paula. And somebody else has joined. Brian Grems.
Hi, Brian. Well, welcome everybody. Glad you can make it again. Great to see that we have people showing up for the call. Great. Announcements. We'll move right into our announcements. I kind of did those announcements during the welcoming, but again, if you haven't been to the SEAC website, go ahead and go there. Go underneath Our Works, and you'll see under Our Works battery storage. If you open up on that link, you'll see all the new documents that we have there. And it's great. This is really great start. Paula, again, thank you. I know that you worked into the wee hours getting some of this done, and I appreciate it again.
Yeah, it was over the weekend. I kind of like gave up all my socializing for all of you again.
That's just because I wasn't in town to go out with you.
Thank you, Paul.
You're right.
You're rewarded.
Yeah, well, and also just to let you know that I promoted all of the storage battery documents on all our social media this week as well. So posted it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, so if all of you want to promote it as well. And then I have a quick announcement as well, because Matt Pace contacted me on Friday and said that he's doing a training symposium. I'll throw that up on the, let me just grab it here. New share. I don't know if you can see that. He's doing a energy storage, fire safety, and code symposium Wednesday, November the 8th in San Francisco.
He's not the one he's not the only one doing it.
Oh, well, he shared it with me, and he said if I could make the announcement today and let everybody.
I understand. He's the one who's coordinating the whole thing, but it's actually the city and county of San Francisco, and there's a whole slew of guys that he is roping into play, including yours truly, and the fact that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about the SEAC documents.
Yes, because he asked me for all of them, and I sent it through to him. So I thought that he was presenting on it, and I asked him if he could please add an attribution and sing our praises. So he said he will. But thanks, John.
I'm the one actually doing it. Actually, what I did was I talked with Matt about this. We were discussing just last Friday about the planning, and he said, and I suggested that besides myself being there, of having Pat Healy, since Pat is in the city of Pleasanton, nearby to city and county of San Francisco, and so that the code officials hear not only from me as being a co-facilitator for this group, but also of hearing Pat Healy, a code official, talking about this.
All right, good.
Nice.
And what I'd also, if I may piggyback on this, is that in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, there is a group called the Tri-Chapters Uniform Code Committee, and Tri-Chapters means it's the three major ICC chapters in the area, which are Peninsula, East Bay, and Monterey Bay. That's where we get the Tri-Chapters. They've banded together for education purposes, for code development purposes, as well as for for the uniform code interpretations, and that's where that Tri-Chapter Uniform Code Committee is. Pat Healy and myself are part of that committee, and now that the documents are officially done and in the form they are, is that we will be bringing them, and in fact the chapter presidents were pushing me last Friday at a meeting of the Tri-Chapter, saying, where's the documents? Where are the documents? And I said, well, let's let it get posted, because I knew it was imminent. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring it to the Tri-Chapter Uniform Code Committee, and they're so that they can go, hey, these look damn good. We'll accept them locally up here, and give appropriate attestation and all that. So I think that will help in promoting us as well.
Say, Paul, Jeff Speaker, I'm sorry, I was a few minutes late, but I'm not sure if you might have already addressed. Last meeting we had, I seem to recollect saying this would be the last meeting, and when I saw this meeting pop up, I thought, oh, well, maybe there's been some new source of funding developed for SEAC. Is there some updates that we can learn about?
Isn't that another agenda item, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, that's going to be discussed at number 5.
You got to wait for it, Jeff. Let it develop.
Okie doke.
That's yeah. One other.
It seems like it might have been number 1, since I didn't expect there to ever be another meeting. But sorry for asking.
Okay, no problem.
Another announcement, if I may, also 2 other announcements, if I could, Mr. Chair. One is that UL has got a webinar on energy storage systems. Go figure. It's on the latest and greatest going on with regards to all the various UL standards and research that has been happening regarding energy storage systems. It will be on November 15th. It will be at 9 a.m. Pacific time. They like to put it in Central Time, so I'm just translating for you. And Paula, I just sent you an email with the specifics that so you can grab from there and forward it on as you wish. I encourage anybody to, even if you're not able to make it to it, that what you should do is to sign up because afterwards you'll get an email saying, here's the link for to a recording of said webinar. So that's available to you guys and everybody. And then the second thing that I wanted to bring up is to advise to you that there's code proposals, several code proposals that are going on regarding energy storage systems for inclusion into the Chapter 12, the new Chapter 12 of the International Fire Code for the 2021 code development code cycle, which starts with proposals being submitted by January 8th of next year. But there is a Fire Code Action Committee, an ICC, International Code Council Fire Code Action Committee that has a work group that is for energy storage systems. They will be having a meeting on October 4th and 5th of the whole Fire Code Action Committee to discuss and to decide what direction they will go in providing, in making those proposals. There's several other Code Action Committee work groups as well that are working on other areas of the iCode family. Predominantly, of course, what of interest to you guys is the International Building Code and the International Fire Code, because those will show up eventually in California codes. So just want to let you know that. And that's it. If you want to know more on those code action committees, you can go to iccsafe.org and you can look up the code action committees to see what they're doing.
John, can anybody participate in that?
Anybody can put their 2 cents into what goes, and comments to the code action committees. There are specific members of the code action committees that will do the voting on what is in there, no different than how we are, in that anybody and everybody is welcome to make comments on the documents we produce, but only those that are the voting members of the group can vote on what action is taken regarding them.
Okay.
So yes, and there are a number of conference calls for these working groups as well. So just to let you know. And if you want more details on that, I'm involved with to the hilt with all of the different parts. So
Good, thank you, John. Any other announcements anybody want to add?
Hi, can you guys hear me? This is Eileen Prado. I'm sorry, I'm the one that had the barking dogs.
Hi, Eileen. We can hear you clear. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add a little bit to what was just said about the International Code Council, because I am employed by the International Code Council. Anyone can make, anyone other than staff, so not me, but all of you, can make suggestions or proposals for upcoming code cycles. Anyone can. Whether the Code Action Committee, we refer to them as CACs, likes your proposal or not is one thing. That just means that they may not support your proposal, but you're certainly welcome to submit your own proposals and support them yourself. So you don't have to have Code Action Committee approval to enter a proposal. The industry can do it as well. An individual can do it too.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other announcements? Hearing none, let's move on to 4, and presentation on storage battery energy storage systems task group work. John, you're back up.
Was there somebody that was just saying something? Okay. In regards to the energy storage system task group, for the last one standing at this time, the energy storage FAQ informational bulletin, I have not added anything further. I haven't seen any further comments or any adjustments. Further, there are still the couple of items of cleanup. I thought I could get to it before this meeting, but unfortunately, I got shall we say, shanghaied by realizing I had several items I needed to do to put together the drafts for the code action committees of ICC for consideration for the October 4th and 5th. So, therefore, was not able to make the adjustments in time for this meeting.
Okay. Do we have any, are there any future meetings scheduled for that task group, John? Or you're just going to make those?
They're simply adjustments to the most current. If somebody feels that there is a value to having a said work group, one more last gasp work group task group meeting, I'm more than happy to set one up, but it would be set up sometime probably in the second week of October.
Okay.
Is there a comment or interest to doing so? Crickets. People just don't want to be on conference calls, or they're far more interested in being on Charles Picard's rapid shutdown task group, which is far more exciting.
He gives us
I
lunch.
like the FAQ group.
All right, so I will talk with Paula about give several dates in the proposed times during the second week of October, so that a doodle poll can go out regarding that.
And then, John, do you think that after that call,
We're
we'd
done.
have to wrap up this document?
We're done.
Okay.
Yes. Put a fork in
Yeah.
it.
Good. Okay, so we'll move that forward through the committee and then see if we can't get consensus on it. Thank you, John.
It will be done. Whether we like it or not, it will get done.
Okay.
Is that consensus? I can't really think about that.
What was that?
Is that consensus that we're going to do and get it done regardless of what happens? We're going to get it done. That's the consensus.
That is it. Okay.
I don't think there's anything controversial, because otherwise people would be screaming otherwise, and I haven't heard any screaming. So.
And I haven't seen any screaming.
Maybe I'm a little deaf. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move on to update on the rapid shutdown task group work.
Duncan, are you going to present on that, or? I don't see Charles Pickard on this call.
Wasn't there a doodle poll that was put out?
Yes, and then what happened was we set up a call, and my notification got thrown into his junk folder, and he missed the opportunity to attend the call. And on the call, I'll go to, I know that some are new to this task group, and Alan asked just to sort of clarify and explain the document.
So I must say, Paula, I unfortunately on that particular one, I kind of missed. I missed it as well because I didn't see the invite somehow. I don't know what happened, but anyway.
Hey Paula, this is Duncan. I've texted Charles to see if he's joining, and I don't know if the invitation to this one met the same fate the last one, Matt. We've both been having our share of transition woes as it relates to email, but I don't have the update, so I'm not the person to give that. But with any luck, he will join. We'll see.
Yeah, he's been missing my messages too, so I think he's got some bigger spam filtering problems than most of us do.
I'm in the exact same boat with your content as well, Jeff. So we don't know what IT is doing to us right now, but we're not getting, even when we have explicit rules to accept your emails, they're still not landing in our inboxes.
Well, maybe we just need a different strategy to communicate. What I can always do is send it from a different email address.
All right, yeah, so just to back up a little bit again, so on that task group call, we were asked from pages 5 to 9. There's a lot of context here that's got strike-throughs. And so what I just mentioned, and I'm pretty sure I'm correcting this, is that Charles is busy restructuring this document. So from pages 5 to 9 is the original work of the document. And then if you go up to pages 1, that's where it's the new document.
Well, and probably even a better way to put it, in the original one we put together, what's on that 5 to 9, that was our initial outline when we were throwing things against the wall of, hey, we need to cover this and that, and then he left it at the bottom of the document so we could cross out things as we took care of it up above.
Yes. Okay, so and I know that Charles Pickard's calendar has been super busy at the moment, so I think that he mentioned that his next breather is middle of October.
Okay.
So I'm expecting that if there's going to be another task group call, it's probably going to be scheduled for middle of October. But I do know that he sent an email out to all the task group participants to say that, you know, he encourages everybody to keep things moving forward and adding comments and questions to the document.
Okay. That's through Google Docs, everybody, right?
Yes.
We know we can get on and still participate on these Google Docs. Your participation is encouraged. We need your input to complete the documents. Everybody has something to offer, and so I encourage you to do that. Paula, was there anything else that you wanted to add about that? Rapid shutdown task group work?
No, that was it. That was basically my update from what I can gather.
Okay, good. Let's move on to status of the work regarding SEAC. This is where there's a lot of background information. You might want to mute your phones when we're not talking, so we don't get the feedback. Thank you. Status work regarding SEAC. As you can see, a lot of the task groups are continuing to work. We have had a few missteps. Paula has, I want to bring up that Paula has done everything pro bono. There have been, correct me if I'm wrong, Paula, but this month of September, there have been no donations made to SEAC.
Yeah, there's been no donations that have come through.
So Paula has informed us that she obviously can't continue to do all this work pro bono, and so she has she's starting to look for work, and I certainly can't blame you, Paula. You have been such a charging force for SEAC, and we're as far as we are because of you. And so I appreciate everything you've done, but I know that just saying thank you doesn't go far enough. John, you have anything to add?
No, I'm listening in right so far.
Okay.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Paula.
Oh, sorry, Steve. So, yeah, Steve and I had a conversation offline this week just to discuss, and I said that of all the action items that were on our August and September list, we've attended to everything. The only thing was obviously the rapid shutdown task group work. John's energy storage system FAQ document. We were able to also wrap up and finalize and get closure with LA County on all the SEAC material and domain, so that's all been transferred. The only thing that we still need to address is the Wix account, which becomes due 1st of February 2018. There's somebody online that I'm not too sure. I'm getting a lot of noise in the background.
Hey, John. You are now joining the meeting. Hey, John. John Tacker, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, John called and he says they have like an ISO kind of shipping container that they're evaluating for use with.
Okay, sorry, I've just muted John. I think that's a. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like you got a separate call.
Yeah, sorry about that interruption. We decided to change this meeting to a conference call because when we do webinars, we notice that those who register and attend are sometimes unable to join and participate. So unfortunately, when it's a conference meeting like this, there's a lot more juggling and managing to, I have to go through everybody that's online and see who I need to mute. Sometimes I'm not too sure who I should mute. But anyway, to carry on with our status of SEAC work. So all the action items have been addressed. There were a couple of missing meeting summaries for the December meeting, the March, April, and May, where I wasn't contracted. So over the weekend, I attended to all of those missing meeting summaries and added those to the website. So as far as I feel everything is updated there. The only other thing that Steve and I discussed was we felt that it might be really great to add a acknowledgement section to the website where we acknowledge and thank all those who have contributed to the work of SEAC. I think that would just be a really worthy gesture and also add credibility. So if any of you are okay with that or not okay with that, please let us know. And what else is there? I know that John submitted all the 3 public inputs for the NEC 2020. Those were all submitted. And then I've also been speaking to other people out in the industry. I've had 3 phone calls this week already. I've got another 2 tomorrow. And these are to just reach out and find out if there's any availability of funding that SEAC can tap into. So I'm still continuing to look for funding opportunities. Unfortunately, the message I keep hearing is the same. It's we're funding challenged or strapped ourselves. And so those organizations that I have spoken to who do similar work to SEAC and kind of have a similar setup and model say that their members and partners, because they benefit from the work of their particular organizations, are the ones that tend to fund immediate needs. And so, we've been asking everybody since May of this year to please help us, and the support has not been sufficient that's come through. So I'm just saying again that long-term support is not going to be realized immediately. And if those of our members and partners want the SEAC work to continue and not to go into dormancy, then we really, really need immediate help and assistance to continue this. So I don't know if people feel that we should place SEAC in its dormancy and stop all the activities, or whether there are other committee members who would like to take over immediate and necessary administering tasks.
I mean, to administer is a lot of work. It's a big responsibility. And Paula, you show all the time how much work that is. Yeah, it'd be great if somebody could step up and say, I'm going to be the administrator, or we really need the commitment from the group. What do we want to do? I really can't tell you how valuable I think this group is, and the work that it produces, how valuable I think it can be for all jurisdictions to easily adopt. But we really need commitment from the whole group.
Well, and Steve, I'll tell you, I feel similarly that this is a very productive group, and I'd like to see this continue on. If I had the bandwidth, I'd be willing to throw my hat in the ring, and unfortunately, knowing the amount of work that's necessary to do this right, I just don't have it with the other commitments I have. I hope there's a way we can figure it out. But Paula, question for you. One of the recent discussions was there's a new streamlined permitting process for, or it's called simplified or something, for energy storage. And the question was, would there be a guidebook like exists for AB 2188? The answer was uncertain, and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, at the least that was a topic that they were discussing. It would be their responsibility to develop it like they did the last one. I don't know if there'd be funding, but the work that SEAC has already done seems like a good basis for that type of an effort.
Yeah, well.
So it's just a comment that I thought was worth making right now. Actually, Alan Fields and I were on a call the other day, yesterday with Calcea, where this topic came up, and it seems like a worthy question of being asked, since they now have new legislation that would, in theory, put into place. It's kind of like AB 2188, but lighter version. AB 2188 was more binding, and I think this one is a little lighter because there's less known about energy storage now than there was about solar when AB 2188 went in.
Jeff, do you think it's this? I've thrown up on the screen something that I read the last few weeks. Is it AB 546?
Yep.
Okay.
So that the question is, it says it would create a handbook. Alan Fields, if you want to speak up to help explain this, I don't think that it will create a handbook. I think it's recognizing a handbook might be created. And in my mind, this is one of the better platforms, if not the best platform, to help establish what those rules and guidelines. Guidelines, I think, is the proper term.
Sure. The bill itself basically just requires that there will be some documentation and forms associated with permitting of that energy storage on a website. So there isn't really a whole lot of very binding language, like Jeff was saying, for what these documents will actually be. It also mentions that OPR may, with consultation with basically all of the entire industry, and we're talking about what SEAC defines as industry, so AHJs, fire stakeholders, industry, installers, manufacturers, all of that, they may provide guidance on energy storage permitting. But I mean, I think that this would be possibly a good time for us to be able to maybe get some money from OPR to be able to generate these documents, or at least a slight amount of funding. I don't
know that it would be enough to keep SEAC going full bore, but it might be enough to take advantage of these documents and give Paula some compensation for her time and energy. So just an idea.
Very good idea, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that. And Alan, thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I agree with you. We would be a great resource, SEAC members.
And probably what I would advocate is that we explain that, what SEAC has done is the best start that we know of around the country right now. And to do it right, ideally, we would create a guidebook not dissimilar to the process that went into creation of the California Solar Permitting Guidebook a few years back. And I remember hearing the stories about it. It doesn't sound awful fun to me, but it was work that somebody was doing.
Yeah,
I mean, it definitely won't be easy because there is I would say a much higher variety of types of designs for energy storage systems than typical PV projects. But I mean, that's just one of the struggles that this group would be able to figure out. Maybe these so-called toolkit documents wouldn't be as restrictive as the PV toolkit documents. I mean, I don't really know if anyone has thought about the best way of permitting or streamlined permitting for energy storage systems actually is. Just because permitting these systems is still pretty new for most AHJs, even the larger ones.
Yeah, no doubt. And so when I first heard of this that possibility of streamlined permitting bill like AB 2188 for energy storage, my comment was, and I still feel that way, is, gee, it seems a bit premature because we haven't even established what a typical battery system looks like. And when I compare where energy storage is today, recognizing that lead acid batteries have been used for decades, going back into the 1930s, if not earlier, for remote power systems, energy storage. But this new generation of lithium batteries and now flow batteries coming in and other chemistries, in my mind, if I were a jurisdiction, I think I'd be a little more apprehensive looking at it today with what we know than I did looking at solar 5 or 6 years ago when AB 2188 became a thing.
Paula?
Yes?
Yeah, this is Pete. Yeah, just want to give a perspective on the increasing numbers of ESS. I keep track here, and I've probably, a couple of months ago, I may have had 1 or 2 a month. I've had 30 permits in the last couple of weeks. So it does appear to be taking off.
Yeah.
There's a need for this. There's no doubt. Obviously, Pete, those numbers, you're seeing a 30-fold increase over the course of a year. It seems to me that this is needed. Even if we can't answer all the technical questions 100%, we need something. We have nothing right now.
Yeah, and I mean, to just make mention of all the conversations I've had over the last 4 months, and it's pretty unfortunate, and I'm trying, I'm changing the message, is that a lot out in the industry seem to have this perception of SEAC as being just code focused and focused on solar and subsequently battery storage. And unfortunately, it hasn't spoken to the needs of the California Long-Term Energy Efficiency Strategic Plan. All of those programs that have money to throw at this kind of work have been keeping SEAC out of it because they haven't understood exactly what it is we've been doing. So it's trying to change that message out there and the perception to everybody that no, SEAC is not solar specific, and it's, everybody thinks all we do is just code work, but there's an emphasis on the code work because as far as I'm concerned, it's the backbone and it's what drives adoption out there. So it's really sort of communicating and speaking to the needs of all these people and getting them to change their perception and idea of SEAC.
Good.
And I mean, if any of you, like Alan and Jeff, if you feel that, we need to tap into the OPR, the last conversation I had with the OPR was probably when Hector was around, and that was beginning of last year. I think we spoke to Sandy Goldberg. So if there's anyone that you feel Steve and I should be talking to, then please let us know because, it's very time consuming to find the right person to speak to.
Well, Jeff, is this something that we could try sending them over to Sam Diaz? I mean, one of the issues with OPR that I've heard is just that they don't really know, or they're not really taking on any new sort of projects right now, just because they're basically on their way out as an administration. But I mean, I know that there was some talk with Sam Diaz, at least about the solar permitting guidebook, so he might be the right person to talk to about any AB 546 documents.
Yeah, in fairness, we can Sam Diaz, I think, is the person responsible for everything I've ever heard. Every time I've heard Sam Diaz's name, the next sentence is, and he doesn't really seem interested in doing anything.
Yeah.
But the reality is this is politics. This isn't, if we're going to see what Pete just reported around the state, and we likely will in many large area jurisdictions where battery systems are going to be an everyday thing, and these building officials who scratch their head trying to figure solar out now are trying to figure out a friggin' battery system, which in my opinion is so much more complex to figure out. I just think that there's a huge need, and that if the governor, if Jerry Brown, were appreciating this fundamental complexity, he'd probably say, why the hell don't we support the creation of some standard common sense guidelines for permitting of energy storage? It seems like a no-brainer, but I don't know that that idea has been posed to somebody who holds the purse strings that can make it happen. But it seems like a compelling political argument. So, Paula, what I would say is maybe having a conversation with Bernadette would be good to get her perspective on where one might go with this issue. Keep in mind that CalSEA has a vested interest in making policy for energy storage practical, and it could be more policy-oriented than these damn codes and standards.
Okay.
Well, there's also, I mean, and if they're willing to have SEAC handle the energy storage quote unquote guidebook, I mean, we should also look into dealing with revisions for the solar permitting guidebook. I mean, as it is right now, the solar permitting guidebook is still in a state that excludes a growing number of projects just because of that one little exception where you can't use the string inverter or microinverter standard plans if you have a module with a short circuit current greater than 9.6 amps. I mean, that the number of modules on the market with a greater short circuit current than that is increasing, and I mean that book needs to be updated as well. So if SEAC could be some kind of disconnected arm of the governor's office, that would sure be a neat thing for the rest of the state.
And I think it would be functional for the industry too, and practical. It would be a service to jurisdictions throughout California, in my opinion.
You know, if for anyone that was at the Southwestern section, the IAEI Southwestern section meeting in San Diego, there was a discussion at the code breakfast, a question regarding energy storage. And it was a great insight for anyone who was there because of the misconception some misconceptions that were quite widespread among the audience. You know, keep in mind, this is an audience of AHJs. And so I say all this to say that it's a point of education, and certainly something like a guidebook would be a great point of education, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there that misconstrue an energy storage system with a emergency backup system, in Article 700, 701, 702. So I think we need to get the information out.
Good point. So I think there are some things we can do. Paula, I'll help you in any way that I can on this. Encourage everybody to go ahead.
Sorry, there was an email that came in to me about 15 minutes ago. I've just been networking and speaking to a whole lot of, and actually Rachel DeFranco, the sustainability manager of City of Fremont, has really promoted the work that we've been doing. So there's a couple of people up in the Bay Area that I've been speaking to the last week, and I have a call tomorrow with BayRen. I don't know if you remember when SEAC was adopted by LA County Office of Sustainability, SoCalRen were funding us.
Yeah. And
then what happened was, I think, I'm open to correction, but the assumption I got was that SEAC, the work that SEAC did was kind of misinterpreted. And so SoCalRen, didn't quite get what SEAC was doing, and because we didn't fit this whole energy efficiency portfolio, we didn't quite get the nod on the funding to continue our work. But the guy that I'm going to be speaking to tomorrow is the Codes and Standards Program Manager. And so I'm going to be chatting to him about how SEAC to any available resources or funding. And so I'm just going after everything and anything we can possibly do right now.
On another thing that I've been thinking about is just in terms of workload. Like, I'm not even gonna try and think about what to do about paying for the software resources that SEAC is using, but just from a straight up workload perspective, is there any way that we could just have the group leads for certain task groups responsible for organizing meetings, editing their documents, and just kind of spreading out the work that Paula has been doing? I mean, it might be a little bit more manageable than saying, okay, Jeff, you're now the SEAC administrator and also working full time for QuickMount. Like that's probably an unrealistic thing to ask, but if we can just divvy up the tasks between some of the task group leaders, might that be one way to at least kind of just keep the workload lift going a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to take over organizing meetings, you want to have access to the Zoom account, like those group.
Oh, I'm just right. I'm just kind of floating this because I don't even know how feasible that is from the point of view of like how many people can actually be managing the account for that Zoom meeting. I mean, can you have 5 different people with 5 different email domains who are actually able to use it, or is it the kind of thing where it's just one login? I don't really know personally.
So just a thought on this is John Tacker. Just a thought on this is that, for example, you heard me mention the code action committees of ICC earlier. There's a number of work groups for within each code action committee, and the leaders of each work group has a leader, like we do, like Alan or myself or whomever, and there are times when certainly ICC staff provides a great amount of resource, but at the flip side, there are times where we have done task groups and numerous task group meetings where we use our own resource. Like, for example, I'm a leader for a couple of work groups where I set it up using Skype, Skype for Business, and I have like 10, 15 people on that call and work through in that way. So there is a way to do it that may not be Zoom, but and various people have different methods of doing it.
All right,
I agree with you, Charles. I agree with you, Alan, that the lead there would require a little bit more on the lead, but I think that's good. I'm curious as to who you're talking with, by the way, Paula, at at Bayrens, because I actually, that's in my backyard, is that I, being up in San Jose, I come across some of the guys from Bayrens all the time. So
the gentleman I was introduced to yesterday was Edgar Ventura. And then the invite that I got to a call tomorrow afternoon will be with Chris Bradt.
Oh, okay. Chris Brad?
Yeah.
B-R-A-D-T?
It just says here, who is acting Bayren Codes and Standards Program Manager.
Yeah, I know Chris. So, yeah, it'd be, when you talk with Chris, you would probably want to say this is that group that John Tacker is part of, because then that will help them a lot of understanding what group you're talking about, and because he's been at various ICC chapter meetings that we've talked about SEAC.
All right.
Good.
John, I thought you were in every group.
I just about am. Because that's the only way I can make friends, and at least I think I have lots of friends by being in all these groups. And just I think that overall I think we still need to be very careful to make sure that at least the leadership and that first of all, this continues to be an extremely well-balanced stakeholder group, and that of having the lead being from the AHJs, because otherwise, then I think it just becomes just another industry group that may not have, with a number of jurisdictions, may not have the dare I say, the level of credibility it needs to have to be effective. And the more independence we can have from any one group, the far better I think we are.
Okay. Good. Any other comments? Looks like there are several good leads that we need to follow up on, and to me, it does. I didn't hear anybody saying let's fold up the tent and put it dormant for a while.
I'm assuming we're still having the meetings we have scheduled through the year, and we'll be continuing on in the next year.
Yeah, so we're going to, I don't know if I'm going to be available to actually come in and set up all those meetings and be there for that duration of time. So I'm going to have to speak to somebody who can take over those tasks.
Well, let me ask this: is that for the October meeting, which we currently, I believe, have on task to be on the schedule, it's to be at the County of LA facility
in Alhambra,
in person in Alhambra. Is that there's, the only thing is I don't know how to set up the Zoom, the technological equipment. Is Jeff, are you thinking of being here or what?
What was the date on that again, John?
It's October. That's the October meeting.
October the 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I doubt I'd be there. I certainly can set up web meetings. So, for example, one of the things I was going to mention is, in theory, we could operate in much the same way that task groups for UL Standards Technical Panel operates, like 2703, where we have 5 task groups, 5 different leaders. They each organize their own meetings using whatever platform works for them. I use GoToMeeting because that's what I do my webinars in. I could use GoToMeeting to put on a SEAC meeting in the intervals, like the monthly intervals, whether it be in person. I could administer all that remotely. The question, I guess, is whoever would be there live at the meeting, if there's going to be a live component those months, would have somehow the meeting hooked up through their computer. Now, this is all doable, certainly. For what it's worth, I think just having the meetings where people aren't in person are easier to administer if the web meeting is the central way that meeting's happening. If, on the other hand, there's a group that's in person and then you also have a web meeting, coordinating that in a way so that it works for everybody is more complicated, and will have less value for the remote callers, I guess you'd say.
Well, maybe the question really should be is, do we feel, I personally am old school that I like wherever possible and in person, because then you can actually have those sidebar conversations as well as having, you can see the whites of their eyes kind of thing. But I think that there's something about that is, especially when it's a long meeting, that it's more productive than being on the phone.
Well, I'm certainly not opposed to that possibility, with one comment that I might be struggling to travel in the month of October. My schedule's been really hardcore. We're getting close to the debut of the documentary film.
No, it was not a comment. I understand that. I appreciate that. My comment was just simply is, my question, I guess, is that do we want to be saying, rather than having a 1 hour conference call every other month and a in-person meeting for several hours in a location for the remainder of this year, do we want to simply say, okay, let's go for, say, a 2 hour conference call rather than these in-persons on the October and the December dates?
Well, for me, again, yeah, it's easier to do it remotely for me, at least.
Yeah, it's cheaper for all of us to do it that way, and it's easier for me too, and not to have to travel.
I just hate to miss out on that. And maybe this, or better yet, how about this, guys? What if we said we do the 1 hour conference calls monthly, and then I would highly recommend we get together in person and forget the any conferencing thing into it, that we get together, say, twice a year or once a year in person for a full day.
Sure, I'd be willing to entertain that possibility. I guess I'm being more immediate in my questions as to if SEAC is going to live on in some fashion, or the efforts in this group, how do we keep that process going in the next 3 months? To me, that's probably more my focus than, let's plan some future in-person meeting. I think what we need to establish, and we're still in that part of the discussion where Steve has asked for volunteers to help keep SEAC going forward. What I feel I could do, what I can commit to between now and the end of the year, which my horizon, I struggle to think about next year for many reasons. But I'm willing to help administer the conference calls if we're going to have them at the required dates, so we can at least have these monthly discussions and figure out how SEAC will function without Paula being the day-to-day administrator.
So what the proposal?
That's a great offer, Jeff.
The proposal I would have is that the proposal I have is this: is that for the October 19th and the November, what is it? No, I can't remember. November 16th, and I believe it was December 14th.
December 21st.
December 21st. Thank you. I propose that for those 3 times, that what we do is we do set it up as a 2 hour call, not necessarily that we're going to use all of it, but 2 hour call to allow for there being some discussion, and it be from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then what I would propose is that we tentatively start to look at a in-person meeting for the January time, and I will gladly make available again the UL facility in the Brea office.
And John, I wonder, we're talking about trying to get this 2703 task group meeting, STP meeting, I should say, coordinated, and we're hoping to do it there. It would be awesome if we could do those 2 at the same time. But that said, just to remind myself, the date in December, Paula, was what?
December was the 21st.
21st, okay. All right, I've blocked off the following 3 dates: October 19th, November 16th, and December 21st as tentative 2 hour web-based meetings that I could facilitate on my end for the membership. And rather than trying to figure out how SEAC is going to work today, it sounds like we're going to have to start those conversations on October 19th.
Yeah, I mean,
very good.
I've already drawn up a list of the necessary tasks that need to be done. So it's, I can share it with the committee members, and then all of you can have a look at, well, what platform we use, for all those tasks, and then who is sufficiently skilled and to manage these platforms and these tasks. So I can share that with everyone, and then everybody can decide I can do this or I can do that and split it all up.
So are you guys okay with the thought of what I'm proposing and suggesting that I could start working on setting up a in-person in January?
I'm certainly open to that possibility.
Me too, John.
Hey, John, keep in mind, this is Pete, that end of January, for anyone involved in NEC code making panels, the last couple of weeks of January, we head to South Carolina.
You're right. And so maybe here's another suggestion. What would it, well, I know that it's near somebody's anniversary, but would it be better then, are you suggesting to be either the February 15th, third Thursday, or the March 15th, third Thursday, be that in person rather than to try to shoehorn it into January, and just to do it so that the January 18th is yet another 2-hour conference call?
Well, that might be helpful. I don't know how many people in this committee are members of code-making panels, but for those that are, the last couple of weeks of January are pretty hectic and difficult to make other meetings.
Yeah, but am I gonna hear that same thing for somebody who was married on February 14th? February 15th?
You might hear it from his wife.
Yeah, I'll talk to Julie.
Okay, so I think that we have some great steps going forward. Great conversation today, guys. Great participation. Jeff, thank you for stepping up and offering your services. I'm ecstatic, Jeff. Thank you.
Well, and obviously, Steve, what I look at is that's a fairly modest portion of what Paula would do, because in essence, all I would be doing was organizing the meeting, facilitating the meeting. But my sense is that we're going to have to, in our next discussions, figure out how the day-to-day work of, there's a lot more organization than just posting this information to a website, maintaining the website. I have skills to be able to do many of those things. My only concern is that if I were to volunteer to do that, would I be doing the kind of job that I would be proud of? And I'm worried about that. So what I'm hoping is, if we could find a way to officially start this group again, and Paula, I don't know what your employment situation might look like when that might happen, but it certainly would be nice to go back to Paula and say, hey, there's this group that wants to keep this effort alive, and I think all of us would say, well, hire Paula to do it. And so if that opportunity were to exist, Paula, that seems the natural thing for us to do, from my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that with even with Wix, there's always a learning curve to everything.
I use Wix right now for my own. If anybody wants to see my expertise in Wix, go to www.solarpineparty.com. You'll see a full website that I created all by myself, just learning by doing. So I have the skill set to do much of what you do, but in fairness, again, it's not so much can I do it as will I do it at the time and with the timeliness that you've been able to do it, being devoted to this as your primary focus. And for me, it will be my tertiary, or the fourth focus for my life, because of my other obligations. For example, if I were no longer a board member of CalCEA, no longer chairing the Codes and Standards Committee, boom, time gets opened up. But I know how much energy gets devoted to those activities behind the scenes, and I know how much activity you've had to devote to SEAC that we don't have visibility towards. And I know that I don't have that level of time to be the new Paula. So that's my only caution. But I can organize every month a 2-hour web meeting, no problem.
Okay.
I totally get what you're saying, Jeff, is that you don't want to, before long, you don't want to be saying, pick me, and then find out I'm overloaded and I'm not able to get it done. And
Well, Paul, everybody's going to think I'm a very poor substitute for Paula if they think that I'm going to be doing Paula's job. But sadly, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. But I can organize a web meeting so that there will be a meeting starting at the right time, ending at the right time. I'm even willing to take fucking notes. So that I will do.
So I'm kind of curious what those notes will look like if they're fucking notes.
I will take good notes and email them out to the group after the meeting.
Isn't that what you said? I'm just trying to figure this out.
I'll take friggin' notes, okay?
Oh, okay.
And I will distribute that to the group in the same way that I do this for CalSEA. What I'll probably not be doing is coordinating everybody's activities during that, like I do with CalSEA. People are volunteering to do this, that, or the other thing. I take notes of that, and those become my action items. What I'm saying is that my capacity for expanded action items as a result of the meetings is limited, and my hope is that we can find funding so that we can find somebody that will administer this group on a paid basis daily, so that we can keep because I know, just having seen how things work in the self-paced world of UL standard technical panels, how long it takes to get shit done if people aren't dedicated to that as their first priority. So I'd like just to see some funding come in so that we can keep the formal activities of this group going forward, because I see potential in it. I see need, and my sense is it would be a good investment at the state level if we can convince somebody at the state level that they should turn their attention to this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But the conversation with Chris, I think, will be a good one. Frankly, Paula. And like I said, if there's anything I can help you with regarding Chris, I'd be more than happy to enter in that. I had a conversation with Chris about this, good Lord, about, I want to say, sometime in the spring of this year. And we got into a long conversation about it, but and then it just kind of fell by the side at the time. But if you need,
well, if you're available to make tomorrow afternoon's phone call at 2:30, I can send you the details and ask them to plug you in, and we can both pitch SEAC to them and hear where this goes.
I am more than happy to be on that call at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, because I could do with all the help I could possibly get right now. By all means, put me on. What the heck? I've got another meeting that's also scheduled from 2 to 3, but that gives me an excuse to get out of that meeting to actually go to this one. All right.
Since we're on time, Paul, maybe if it would be possible for you and I to speak after this meeting's over, later today or tomorrow might even be better, just so I can get some of the basic information. And it's my distinct desire that if somehow or another our group, through all of its connections, has the capacity of getting funding for SEAC formally, that you would be the one to come back and administer it, because I don't hear too many people anxious to do the job that you're doing, and we all feel it's important work. So since you're the only person willing to do this, if you get paid, I will volunteer you as the first person that whoever would fund this group pays to administer this group so we can keep this important work moving forward.
I think we're all in that same boat.
All right, so I'll talk with you then, Paula. Maybe we can chat for a few minutes tomorrow, just for me to get some of the basics. I'm even happy to right now take over control of the Wix so that we can keep things semi-frequently updated.
Well, the Wix account I haven't transferred over yet, because what I need to do is somebody needs to go into it, but then when we do, we need to subscribe to it again and take it over from, I think it was the CSE who paid for it for a year. So February next year it becomes payable and due. But I personally don't have the money to throw at it. It's going to be.
I think it might be what was it, $150, $200 or something of that nature? I'm not sure.
Yeah, for 1 year. Otherwise, one can take out a monthly subscriction and pay monthly for it.
Well, what I'd suggest is we can scrape up.
Don't worry, we'll get that covered. But let's you and I tomorrow talk about some of these basic things that need to be attended to, with the full appreciation that if I'm running Wix and this project gets funded, it goes right back in your name. You take control of it, and I wash my hands of the administration happily.
Okay.
Good.
Well, if I
we
didn't
won't-
have
and
to
we
worry
won't-
about paying for my lights to stay on, I would happily continue doing this work. But it's like 4 months. I'm running out of, and I'm starting to stress out here.
And we won't call you Pontius, by the way, so don't worry about it.
So anyways, gentlemen,
let's just go forward with that as our strategy for now to keep the conversation moving, and fingers crossed we can figure out a solution to this.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
real good. We've approached the 4:12 hour. I actually have people waiting at my door and at the counter. So next steps, we're going to have Jeff and Paula communicate offline. Is there anything that anybody needs to add to the group before we say goodbye for the day?
And I'll look at at setting up an in-person meeting in tentatively January or February.
Okay.
This is Duncan again. I did connect with Charles via text. He sends his apologies. He is having the email challenges that we discussed. But he indicated that as it relates to the rapid shutdown document, he's got deliverables that are on his plate to basically reorder the document and represent that to the rapid shutdown task group. And as discussed, we're probably looking at a meeting in October to accomplish that review.
All right.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you, Duncan.
No problem.
Okay, any other feedback from the group? Hearing none, we can adjourn. Thank you so much, everybody. I really got a lot out of this meeting. It seems like we're really plowing forward, and I think I'm glad to hear everybody else is very supportive of the work that we're doing in this group, and that nobody wants to just give up. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, would be great to see the momentum continue.
Yes, please. One last thing I'd like to say is, everybody, please try to share our SEAC website, the links with all your contacts. The more people we get visiting the site, the better off we are.
Yeah. Promoting the work. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, folks.
Thanks, Ellen.